The Doomsday clock is counting down. Natural disasters. 2012. Global economic instability. Political upheaval. Do we always have to worry? Absolutely not. Welcome to Living in the End Times with your host, Monita Dukhia. We'll show you how there can be hope in the uncertainty of today's life and times. And now, here is Monita.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Living in the End Times. This is your host, Monita Dukhia. It's a pleasure to have you join us in today's broadcast. We're going to talk about the prophecies of 2012. So the year 2012, according to everybody, is supposed to be a slew of natural disaster culminating in the end of the world. You've got all these prophecies that are circulating. Some people are saying that an ancient Mayan calendar will point to the end of the world because December 21st, 2012 is the exact date when the calendar ends. Other people talk about Nostradamus has got a 2012 Doomsday prediction. Some of these predictions are connected, some are not, but there are all sorts of things going on out there. It's got to the point when a lot of people are asking me about it. Reverend, do you think the world is going to end on December 21st, 2012? A lot of people are freaking out. I know a lot of people are stockpiling water and all kinds of dry goods and building bunkers and all kinds of things. So, really, should you be freaked out? I really don't think so. I'll tell you why. To date, all the doomsday prophecies and predictions about the end of the world have failed. It doesn't matter if the prophecy or the prediction is a biblical one or a pagan one. They've all failed. I know, I understand it's human nature to be curious about what's going to happen next and to wonder about what the future holds in store. Trying to look into the future is called divination. And the pagans had several methods that they employed to sort of look into the future. And I don't think Hollywood had stayed out of this. I mean, I think it was in 2010, there was a movie that came out called 2012 about this possible end-of-time scenario, and it was just a bit over the top. But let's look at it this way. Hollywood made a lot of money, right? And that's the whole point of it. What's all the hype? What exactly are the prophecies of 2012? What do they mean? I'm going to go through most of the major ones because there are loads of them. I could not believe it. And we're going to talk about, are they going to be fulfilled? What does the Bible say about Doomsday? Does the Bible give a specific date for Doomsday? Can we predict the exact date of Doomsday from the prophecies given in the Bible? Or any other text? Can we use pagan prophecies, for example, those given by the Mayans, to pinpoint the day of Doomsday? Stay tuned. It's going to be a very interesting broadcast today. First of all, before I talk about the prophecies, I'm going to talk about what exactly is a prophecy. According to the Oxford Dictionary, the word prophecy means the foretelling of a prediction which is to happen in the future. Prophecies involve divine inspiration, interpretation, or revelation of events which are still future. There are two types of prophecies. There are biblical prophecies and non-biblical or pagan prophecies. So with that in mind, I'm going to start talking. The first one I think I'm going to talk about is the Mayan prophecy, because I think everybody has heard about this one. It's the most hyped prophecy. Before I talk about the Mayan prophecy, let's take a look at who exactly were these Mayans. The Mayans lived in subtropical Mesoamerica, in the countries that are now known as Guatemala, El Salvador, Belize, Honduras, and the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. The Mayan culture was developed between 2500 years BC and 250 AD. And suddenly they disappeared as a major force. There were different Mayan tribes, and each Mayan tribe had its own ruler. And there were frequent battles between the tribes because they were scattered on the Mesoamerican peninsula. The Mayans had some interesting beliefs. They believed that heaven had 13 layers, and each layer of heaven had its own god. The upper layer of heaven, the Mayans believed, was ruled by a bird. Yes, you had it correctly, a bird. And the bird is called the Mayan bird, and it was sort of an owl. It's a screeching owl. So they believed that the upper layer of heaven was ruled by a screeching owl. The Mayans also built pyramids. And each pyramid that they built had 9 steps. The top of the pyramids were very flat. And that's where they did the worshipping for their gods. You might be asking why the pyramids had 9 steps. Because the Mayans believed that the underworld had 9 layers. So heaven had 13 layers, and the top layer was ruled by a bird, and the underworld had 9 layers. The Mayans also believed that the crust of the earth was a thin layer between the real world and the spiritual underworld. These people were very good mathematicians and accomplished sky watchers, but they were also a brutally violent people with a primitive understanding of natural phenomena. They subscribed to archaic beliefs and indulged in barbaric practices of bloodletting and human sacrifice. What were the spiritual beliefs of these people? They believed that skulls and skeletons were signs of regeneration because they were like seeds. And once you put these skulls and skeletons in the earth, miraculously, they're going to be regenerated. The Mayan priests were called shamans. And these shamans and the Mayans believe that there is a spirit world behind their reality. So in the Mayan belief system, it was a place full of spirits and ghosts. They believed that a mountain could house a deity, and a rock could house a spirit. And at night, these ghosts and spirits come loose out of the mountains and rocks to roam about the jungle. So, of course, the shamans tried to get in touch with the supernatural. And the way they did it was they used hallucinogenic drugs that they found in the jungle so they could get high and they could get in touch with these so-called supernatural forces. The Mayans also believe that the blood of human sacrifices was required to power the sun, which they think is a god, for it to continue. The Mayans had 166 gods. They believed that the rulers were descendants of the gods, and the blood of the rulers will appease the god. They also believed that they've got a single supreme deity called Itzamana, and they worshipped him. They thought Itzamana was the chief of the other gods, and he was the inventor of writing and patron of the arts and sciences. Itzamana's wife was called Ixchel, and she was the ancient god of moon and weaving, medicine, and childbirth. The role of the Mayan shamans or priests were closely connected to their calendar and astronomy. Priests controlled learning and rituals in the Mayan cultures. And they were in charge of calculating time, festivals, ceremonies. You know how it goes in these pagan rituals. Divination, cures for diseases, everything. The Mayans believed for their continued existence, they had an inherent responsibility to the gods. And this included blood sacrifice, okay? According to the Mayan sacred calendar, every 5,200-year period signaled the renewed possibility of the destruction of the world because they believe in the repeating cycles of creation and destruction. That's what their mythology talks about. They also believe that the gods at night will guide the sun and the moon across the sky. But when night falls, they believed that the sun and the moon went underneath the earth and came up the next day. But whilst they're going underneath the earth, they were threatened by evil gods. So to prevent this and to help the sun and the moon, the Mayans believed that if they shed blood or they mutilate themselves, the gods will be appeased and allow the sun and the moon to come up the next day. It was very important for them. In the Mayan culture, there was this whole practice of bloodletting. What exactly is bloodletting? Bloodletting was actually a way of cutting yourself and letting your blood spill to the ground. And why did they do this, you might ask? They did this for two reasons. One, it's a sacrifice to appease the gods. And two, it was a means whereby they would summon up the serpent of vision. Yes, I just said serpent of vision. You see, as a scientist, I look for research and everything. And I was doing the research in this. And everything about the Mayan culture spews of Satan. I was thinking, well, when exactly is Satan going to make an appearance? And he just did. They cut themselves and spilled the blood because they want to summon up Satan. And they believe when the serpent of vision came up and was summoned up by them, that their dead ancestors will come out of the serpent vision mouth and speak to them. Does that sound familiar? I talked last week about Halloween, and I talked about the Celts and how they worship their dead ancestors. I talked about the Japanese and how they had Oban. I talked about the Hindus and how they've got this Pitra Paksha. I mean, all the heathen cultures, it's all the same because they all serve the same person. It's Satan. It's satanic. They've got all these rituals. You see, in Christianity, we don't serve dead people. We don't talk to dead people because they're gone. It's none of our business. We don't divine the future. We don't get into mediums and spiritists and channelers. That is all the occult, all right? It has nothing to do with anything at all. Anyway, so here they cut themselves, okay? And the thing I want to say here is, it doesn't matter where you go and how sophisticated the culture might look. Behind it, there's always going to be one or two forces. In the Christian culture and in the Christian religion, whatever you want to call it, it's Christ. We serve him. It's very black and white. Now, you're going to see things like the Sumerians. I'm going to talk about that a bit later on in the broadcast. And every other thing, the Egyptians and the god Ra and all this Isis and the Hindus with their bazillion gods. Behind all of that, it's the devil. It doesn't matter. You could call it New Age. You can call it Fluffy Bunny Fairy. You could call it whatever you want. You could dress it up. And Satan loves that. He loves to be concealed. He loves to be cloaked. Okay? The thing is, the Mayans had some strange beliefs. And we're going to have to take a short break. But before we go off on break, the last thing I want to say to you is they also believe in an Earth Lord. And they think this Earth Lord was a fat, greedy half-breed who lives in the caves under the ground, and he produced lightning and rain. So those are some thoughts for you to ponder. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back.